When recruiters ask students what is the coolest project you have made, most students do not have a good answer, but this is gonna change from now. So दोस्तों, welcome to your first Android app creation. आज हम together we will create your first Android app by using the right knowledge, right principles of clean code, and how to reduce the information you need, because today, the biggest problem is most of you all feel overwhelmed and scared of learning something new is because there is so much to learn. Even in Android, even if you read 5, 6, 10 books, you cannot promise yourself, you cannot challenge yourself that you know every single part of Android. So there is so much to learn, but we will narrow it down, the important fundamentals and how you can get started, plus the resources you need to practice. We will be using pair programming technique in which 2 people, 3 people will together code together, because according to research done in the book called Accelerate, it is proven when 2, 3 programmers team up together on one project, they learn more as compared to 3 working differently. So let's get started, and don't worry, it's gonna be really easy. It is not as difficult as it seems. So here we go दोस्तों, this is the first app we're gonna make. It is a list of images with text. ये data है, this data is from IMDb database, unofficial. I will show you the database soon. So the idea is you should learn how to get data from an API. API is application programming interface. It is coming from a database. So data is coming through internet from an API. We will get that data, put it in our app and use it and show it. So that is number one fundamental concept you need to learn. Number two is how to store that data in the app, and even if you're not connected to internet, how you can use the data. And all of this we will be covering slowly in this bootcamp series. But remember, huge credit to my team Aways, and this project is made with the help of Aways. Thanks for Aways to letting me use this app. And at any point of time you need help, you can straight go to our Discord channel. You will find many teammates who are ready to do pair programming with you. So you can go to pair programming channel and just text here, anyone available to work on bootcamp homework, and then go to any of these voice channels, pair programming 1, pair programming 2, pair programming 3, wherever you have teammates available, and then start working on the homework, start working on the projects with your teammates. We will keep adding more pair programming channels as needed, so you can ask right here. So let's get started with our Android project immediately. Go to Android Studio. So make sure you have installed, make sure you have Java installed. I will leave the steps in description below as well if you are first time installing Android Studio. So open it, and then we're gonna create a new project, file, new project. And then we're gonna start with empty views activity. We want it to be empty and it should just be hello world beginning. So next, and then let's call it movie database. So simple name as a beginning. We're gonna make it in Kotlin language, and this is important, build configuration. This is Kotlin build configuration. It is bit new and Groovy is most common. So the project is building. Let's wait for a minute. Okay, so the project is built, and thanks to MacBook, Android development is 2 times faster on MacBook as compared to Windows. It is proven, so that's why it's built really fast. And remember, when you build your app for the first time, make sure you go to this option here. It is called Device Manager. Here you can see all the devices. So currently I see Pixel 3a, size on disk 10 GB, so you can edit it and I can show you my configuration. I have an SDK installed, software development kit, which is of Android 13 version. I have Pixel 3 device. So this is what you need to set up, and if you have M1 Mac, there's a special step you want to follow. So if you go to M1 Mac, make sure you have ARM64 emulator, so that's why you will be able to run it. For Windows it's very easy, but make sure you have an emulator before running the app. So now just hit the run button. So there's a play button, or this is stop and play button. When you hit play button or stop or play button, it will show up. So click on these sidebars to hide or to show a menu. So for example, if I click on device manager, it will hide, and if I click on the bottom running devices, it will hide, or if I can click on bottom run button, it will hide. So our Hello World app is ready. Now let's try to understand what we need to make and how we're gonna make it. So let's say this is our app. So once again, this is the app we're trying to create and it has a list. So we are scrolling through it, right? And all the images are getting downloaded all the way as you scroll. Now how are we gonna make it and what architecture are we gonna use? Let's try to understand and which database, the database we're using, the REST API we're using, how to use it. We will slowly figure out. Let's complete the UI side of the app. So for that, let's understand the architecture. So this is the design of our app. So this is how it works. It is an MVVM architecture. So it has a model, view, ViewModel. So we're going to use single responsibility principle. That is, model will do only one thing, view will do only one thing, ViewModel will do only one thing. So that is the idea of single responsibility principle. Each class you create, each function you create should do only one thing, not two. That's how you can keep the code clean. So model will have business logic. Let's say you want to connect to the internet and download data. That is model. Now view is what you see. So when you open the app, let's say you open the app, this is first thing you see is activity. Then activity can have pages like second page, third page. This is all fragments. Now fragments can have views. Image is image view, text is text view, this icon is icon, but this is also part of view. All are under the category of view and they all extend class view. So for example, if I just type in here text view, so if you do command click, open the class, you can see that this class actually extends all the way on the top. It extends the class called view. So right here you will see extends view. All these classes extend a view. So that's why they are under the category of view. Now last thing is view model. So what view will do is view will try to call view model. So let's see the diagram. So this is view, activity or fragment, and then it calls view model, and view model will call our repository. It's a layer before model, and repository will call model, which will have database or things downloading from the internet. So these are three layers. One controls the other, second controls the third. So this is how you talk to each element in the app. Now let's get started with the app development. We will start with the UI work for now. So starting with the UI work, I'm gonna start with creating the UI part. So we're gonna go to activity_main. Some of the design is already there. So you see hello world written. I'm gonna remove one constraint out of it. So this is a constraint layout. So to give you to show you how constraint layout works. So अगर आप ध्यान से देखोगे, hello world is tied with a constraint. So constraint is like a handcuff. कोई जंजीरें लगी हुई हैं, आप समझ लो. तो जंजीरें लगी हुई हैं, तो ऊपर top, left, right, top, bottom, these are bound so that it cannot move. और अगर आप नीचे से if you remove those bounds or remove those constraints, the view will go on the top, because top say it still is hung. So that's how constraint layout works. Now what we do is, in a layout we try to connect left, right, top, bottom. So now if we look at the code of that layout, we will have a XML layout attached to it. So in that XML layout, you can change the text. So there are two options to size the text. So for width and height, there are two things. Number one is wrap content. Number two is match parent. So for example, currently it is set to wrap content. If I write more text into it, the area expands automatically. That's why it's called wrap. Wrap, just like Excel sheet में अगर आपने किया होगा, wrap, it expands as you type more text. Now, if you do match parent, it will become as big as the parent is. If the parent is the whole screen, then it will match the whole screen. So you will see how it works, and that's how we construct the UI. This is a very important concept of UI. Now I'm changing text view to recycler view. So you see recycler view is currently wrap context. Now as I change it, and as I increase the size, it is getting bigger, and now the size is in DP. DP is display independent pixel. Like अगर आप phone use करते हो, whether it's small screen, bigger screen, it will expand depending on the size of the screen. That's why it's called display independent pixel. Now I've changed it to match parent so that it fills the whole screen for recycler view. Now let's give ID to the recycler view. Let's call it movies recycler view. and I'm going to create another item which will be called movie item. So this recycler view is a list. It has bunch of movies. So we will create an item layout for item, and we will create an item layout to have bunch of items into it. So let's drag and drop image view and text view. So I'm dragging and dropping to show you, अगर आपको code नहीं करना, if you don't want to code, you can drag and drop as well. And then we will go to the XML side of things and edit it, because every developer uses code more than drag and drop. Drag and drop takes more time if you code manually. If you know the concept, you can code manually and it will be faster. So for example, we have image view and we have text view. Constraint will be same, start to start off. So start to start of parent, left में पूरी screen भर जाएगी, end to end of parent, whole screen will be complete, top to top of parent, top completed. But bottom is the tricky part because उसके नीचे है text view. So text view is underneath it. So constraint bottom to the top of text view. So कि इसका मतलब है नीचे text view है तो उसके ऊपर होगी हमारी image. That's how you're constraining it. So you're drawing the constraint below the image and on top of the text. So that's what it means, constraint bottom to top of text. And you have to practice to learn it. Even if I tell you 10 times, you will not understand unless you do hit and trial. आपको अलग-अलग चीजें try करनी है. Go ahead, open Android Studio right now and try to do with me an experiment. What is wrap content, match parent? Unless you will not try it, you will not learn. Now we're going to do the same thing for text view and quickly make this UI. And text style bold, text hello world, and text size 15 SP. So some parameters and text is ready. Now the next class we will create is list. So list के लिए we need recycler view. Now why it is called recycler view? Now it is called recycler view is because if you scroll through items, so अगर आप once again if I show you the scrolling, you scrolling through it, it will reuse the existing images. अगर आप और चीजें create करते जाते हो, when you keep on creating more and more images, the container of that image, it consumes more RAM. So to reuse that previous container, it saves some memory. That's why it's called recycler view, because it is reusing the previously created images. So as you scroll, the previous image is being used again and it is set from the downloaded image. नई image download हो रही है, the container is same but image is getting resetted. So reusing the container but new image set. So that's how it's called recycler view. Now we're going to create the recycler view, but again I'm going to copy code, and now we're going to copy code all the time because we are copying code from the documentation. That is completely okay. You don't have to memorize everything. I'm going to search recycler view documentation, copy that recycler view code and continue working on it. So after copying code, let's change the name. So movie custom adapter will become movie adapter because we're downloading the list of movies. And again, holder we're gonna create a custom holder. If you see underneath, there's a class called view holder. So I'm gonna create movie holder, and बाकी सारी classes we're going to import by doing option enter or alt enter. Alt enter किसी भी red line पे करो, it imports automatically. If you look at this adapter, it has find view by ID. So the layout we made, it has an ID. So image has an ID, image view has an ID, text has an ID. So if you want to use it in Kotlin code or Java code, you have to find it. So find the layout, use it in Kotlin, but to escape that route, to make it easier, there's something called data binding. So for that, we will enable data binding by going to Gradle, and we will do build features view binding equals to true. Now rather than doing find view by ID, which is very long, आपको ID ढूंढनी पड़ती है, you can just do is you can import the class of data binding. So we will do sync the whole project, Gradle sync. उसके बाद all the IDs will be automatically importable. So you can import it directly. So I will show you as we reach that point. Just like the class on top, I'm going to create a class called movie view holder. Example is on the top. So we will So whatever that is written after the colon, so this movie view holder, item view, and then colon के बाद, it means either you are implementing a class or extending a class. In this case, we're extending a class. You need to practice and practice to understand when we are extending, when we are implementing. For now, आपको पता होना चाहिए, just like the example, we are extending the class called recycleView holder. So text view is equal to find view by ID. Rather than using that, we will be using binding. So creating an object for binding, late init var. Late init var means late initialization. We are initializing binding later on. I know it could be overwhelming if you do not know Kotlin basics या फिर Java basics, but trust me, in our website, on our website, we will cover all from scratch. But this is a bootcamp, how fast based Android development bootcamp works. So continuing with the binding part, so binding say you don't have to search for a view in XML. Now the constructor. So constructor mein we are passing the binding class and returning binding dot root. So this is how constructor works in Kotlin. Now dot root means if you look at the XML file, it has on the top constraint layout. So that is the root view, we are returning it to it. So we need to tell the address. We need to tell which whole view you are providing. So we are basically providing the root top to bottom file. And so now to understand how the data works, this is our API that we are using. So it is called api.themoviedb. So it is called api.themoviedb.org, and this is the URL. After that, there's a folder. So folder is called 3. Us folder ke andar there's a folder called movie. Inside that folder, there's a folder called popular, and these are folders. So second layer is folder, top is URL, and number 3 is query. So there's a question mark. After question mark, there's a query. So in that URL, we are saying if API key is equal to this, then give us the information. That's how REST API works. If you want to have your own API key, you can go to the website called TMDB. It has all the information how you can do it. Basically, I have pasted two URLs, URL number 1, URL number 2. Number 1 is the base URL where you get all the results. So for example, if I copy this URL, put a folder, so URL plus right folder plus API key, which is query. So if I copy this link, which we create using this base URL. So this is base, which is our parent URL. Now if I put it in our link, you get this result. This is all the result. If we look at in JSON formatter, in the results, you see bunch of movies. So let's say this is movie number 1. So if you minimize it, this is movie number 1, movie number 2, movie number 3. And there are many movies here. So basically results has bunch of movies. This is parent. Now in the movie, you will see there is path as well. So path is basically here in the movie, according to the documentation, it has a poster path. So the poster path is image. So let's go back to a URL. This is our URL, second number URL. Now, if in this URL, if you paste it, so sorry, this is the image path, and then image path, you paste the image name, then .jpg, and you get a movie name. So that's how you get the image, and that's what we are trying to do. We will in fact even create our own REST API on our website, but stay tuned for that. Everything will be covered in depth. So this is our API. So let's click enter and you will see how our data looks. We can use JSON formatter to make the data look beautiful, and you will see that our data has 4 elements: page, results, total pages, and total results. So you can literally create and convert this into, you will not believe, you can convert this into your Java or Kotlin class with just 1 second. There are many apps for it, but I'm going to just use ChatGPT. So copy this whole code and then put it in ChatGPT, ask convert following JSON to a Kotlin class. It will give you data class. So there are 2 classes it generated. Number 1 is top level response. So first response has 4 elements: page, results, total pages, just like we saw in our JSON. And now results has the movie data. So result is an array, list of movies is present in it. So if you try to compare again, you will be able to understand. Compare the JSON with this Java class or Kotlin class, you will be able to understand. Now we're going to create these 2 classes, and which are already generated for it. If you'll just quickly create, class number 1 will be API movie list. We're creating a folder called domain. We will keep the code very organized. So domain folder may we will put API movie list. So this is the top level response. Now inside the results, there is list API movie. So we're going to create another class in which there's movie result. So, and then we're going to pass in that list. So list will have API movie, and let's create another class called API movie. So in this class, we're gonna paste quickly. So let's paste this class. And import. So now import is done. Now quickly we're gonna go back to our recycler view. In that recycler view, we will quickly pass in the data. So binding so to pass the data, we have to understand what is binding. So binding means we are binding the view, which could be image view, text view, to the object. So we are getting data from movie object, putting into a view, but there is also image part of it. Now to understand how to set the image, we're gonna look at the library called glide. We're gonna use this library because it is really fast at downloading image in the internet and using it. Now let's understand how we are downloading image, but before that let's implement the glide library. So we're gonna go to Gradle file, Gradle module underscore in the app level Gradle, there are two Gradles. It is written app for it and other written project for it. So in the app level Gradle, we're gonna paste this dependency. So this is a package we are just importing. We are just downloading. We are just using their dependency, or you can say their package for glide. So we're gonna use that quickly. So let's paste it. And in the steps, it also says that I need to paste repositories Google Maven. So I will go to my project level Gradle. So it is written, read the documentation, you will understand it. In here I will need to paste my build script. Under that will be repositories Google Maven Central, and I will build it immediately. So you can build by pressing the sync button or by clicking the hammer icon on top. So you can build using those, and then you can check. So this is called test driven development. Test driven development means as you add code, you quickly test it. It could be manual testing, automated testing. So you have to keep testing as you slowly add, because in the end you will not be able to tell ki error kahan pe hai. So keep testing as you add more and more code. So that is the idea. So now I'm going to copy the code from GitHub of Glide. So it says if you want to use Glide, you need to do glide.with, whatever it is written. I'm just going to copy paste and change it. So in our case, our fragment is going to be binding.root. So which place it is, that is our context. Every function you call, pretty much most function needs a context that is from view point of view. एक fragment का context, एक activity का context, एक view का context. Everything needs a context. Image view needs a context. That context is provided by just doing binding.root.context in this case. So as you practice more, आपको पता चल जाएगा there are multiple ways to use context, but context is basically address कहाँ पे हमें पहुँचना है. So now load के लिए we need a URL. So to understand the URL, I'm going to create constants, and constants are going to be the URL जहाँ पे हम connect करें. I showed you the URL in the beginning. Now I'm going to do is load movie path plus movie.poster path. So poster path is the name of the image. So movie path is URL plus the name of the image. So that's how the URL is being constructed here. Loading spinner is a loader when the image is loaded. Let's skip for now. And into my image view. Now we need to put the view name, the image view where we are setting this image. So download and then set into an image view. Image view will be binding.imageview. So binding is the whole XML class. Binding.imageview is part of that XML class. So this is how we are setting the image from recycler view. So अब recycler view में the holder is ready. Now next part is text view. So binding.text view. So each view element we are getting from object. So binding.text view. So name of the movie is a view. So view we will get from the object API movie.movie name. So these are the two things we are just setting, image and text. So now we need a list of movies. So for that we will create array list or just list. So movie data list API movie equals to array list. We have already created the view holder, so let's delete this view holder. because हमने bottom पे we have already created. Now next is on create view holder. So here we will import wherever there's red line, just do alt enter, option enter, everything will be imported, layout inflator imported. Now this will be changed. Here you can see r.layout dot text row item. We will import it through binding. Binding is the latest way of importing your view. So binding will be here, movie item binding dot inflate. Now if you try to compare line number 22 and 25, both are basically same. But the difference is on one side we are getting from the layout inflator, so on the second line we are getting from binding. So that's how it works. More code you will see, more you will understand. So now what is on bind view holder? So that means जब हम list बना रहे हो, each list item, so we are giving list of movies, right? So it is movies data. Now each movie data will be creating an image and text. So these are the two parts of our movie item, right? So we are binding object say view, object say view. So for each object of movie, we are creating a view. So that's what happening for each of the list items. So यहाँ पे इस कारण we need to use an index. So there are, let's say 20 movies, so it will go from 0 1 2 3 4 एक loop में खुद ब खुद चल रहा है. Just think that way. So that's why on bind view holder for each item. So think like that. Now we're gonna first get a current item. So current item is equal to movie data dot position. So let's say if the position is 0, so we are binding the first item. Now here current item dot let. So let means we are applying changes to that item. So current item dot let for each current item. So current item dot let. So basically current item dot let means we are using the current item, and based on that current item we are updating the view holder. So view holder में हम views डाल रहे हैं, and we already created that bind function in our view holder class, so I'm just basically calling it. Now we will update the return type everywhere to movie view holder. Changes done. Let's go to our main activity. Here in our main activity we will create binding as well. So each activity has XML, and each XML को अगर use करोगे in your Java or Kotlin class, you need to create a binding with each other. Now binding, this will be called activity main binding. It's automatically generated class once again. And there are two ways to use it. One is late init var. That means उसे initialize आप बाद में कर रहे हो, you're initializing that later, or you can mark it null for now and initialize later as well. So both are fine, but best practice is late init var. I'm just showing you both. Now next part is view model. As we discussed in our layout, view will be calling view model. So that's how the hierarchy works. So view model, we will be creating movies, live data. So live data is important because live data is collection of movies that we are downloading. And अब movie view model को आप database समझ लो. Let's say the movies object has the database of movies and we are creating an object of it. So currently our movies is empty. So that's why we're creating a function called get movies, and that function, so fun movies, that function will actually call the REST API, internet, वहाँ से download होगा data. Now we will do the network call later, so let's add a to-do for it, and let's create mock data. Mock object आप create कर सकते हो. So you can just go to ChatGPT or use other websites, but since we have ChatGPT, let's create mock list of data for API movie class. So this is mock data. So एक movie का जो list item है, this is just dummy data. So let's go to our view model and put in this dummy data in a new function called get mock data for movies. So now I will paste it, and this will return a list of movies just like the REST API. Now with this list we can actually use in our recycler view to show you some data. So I'm gonna return it and then go straight to our recycler view. I'm going to return some mock data. So now data is ready. Now in order to use the data efficiently, we need dependency injection. So dependency injection is a very important Android concept. We will cover in depth later for sure. But in order to give you high level idea of dependency injection, consider this bag. So this bag has many items. It has my phone. It has my cables bag. It has my headphones. Now, if I want to find those items, there are two ways. Number one is that I can try to find headphones kahan gaye, where are headphones, where is my cable bag. Ye number one way. And number two way is I can store the information. I can write it down on a piece of paper कि first pocket में there is my headphones. So headphones, nothing headphones in first pocket, and my mini cable bag in second pocket. If I write somewhere, then I don't need to randomly find. Same is the case with dependency injection. So dependency injection means that you are telling the whole app that this is your view model, this is your activity. Now, without manually creating it, you can just import it and use it directly. That is the idea of injection. So stay with me, you will understand it more as we use it. So we're going to use HILT dependency injection. I'm going to the documentation, just copy pasting code in my Gradle file. So there are two Gradle files once again. As per the documentation, one plugins will go in the project level Gradle file, second plugins will go in the app level Gradle file. So we are copy pasting those dependencies required for HILT. HILT is the library that we are using for dependency injection. Now, after importing all of those, now we will start with adding those tags. So these are annotations. Just like I told you, right? कि अगर bag में बताना है, I need to write it down. Where is my headphones? Where is my cable bag? We are writing as annotation to the Android app. We are telling the app that this is main activity. So this is the entry point for each activity, each view model, each module. There is some tags associated. So based on that, you will read it. So that's your homework, to read it. And there's a lot of homework coming soon in the app. Stay tuned for it. Read those about dependency injection, and that's how we are adding it. So main activity, I wrote it wrong actually. It is entry point as per the documentation, but I've written it HILT Android app. We will fix it later. So let's continue working on it. So let's add view model tag to view model, Android app tag to our activity. It should be entry point, but stay tuned. Now let's fix the activity. Activity should be HILT entry point, actually Android entry point. And you also need an application class as part of HILT. For dependency injection, you also need to tell कि this whole application address, main activity address, view model address, you're telling the address of everything to the app. So application class is also necessary. This is just like housekeeping stuff. It's very important. So this is just in the steps. I'm just copy pasting as per the documentation. So we're creating application class, and also according to the documentation, you have to go to manifest file. So manifest file is the file that controls all the elements in the app. You will understand it as you use it more. So here we add permissions, and here we add the main entry point of the app. So we are in application, we are adding the name of the app as application. So since we created new application class, which is called movie app, I'm telling the name of it in manifest. So वो ऐड करने के बाद now we can create view model instance in our main activity. So we will just go to our main activity and create view model equals to view models, view model equals to main view model as view models. So remember, everything should be imported. So, and remember, the view model class should extend view model in order to write this line. Do not do the mistake. I just did it. Now let's understand high level approach of dependency injection. So what dependency injection tells is there is model, there is view, there is view model, right? So first of all, we're telling the app, this is view at, this is view model at HILT view model. Let's say HVM, we added tag HVM. Now for model view also we added a tag at module. So we are adding these tags. We will add this tag later, but when we are using each other, so let's say in view model class, I need to use model. So I'm using model in view model class. I will say at inject any item of model. So I will show you how we will inject later, but currently as per the syntax, we have to use inject for view model in order to use the business logic part of module in our view model. So ये थोड़ा बहुत समझ लो, this is important part of syntax. So that is why how annotation, first annotations, then injection for using that dependency injection. So that is the idea. Now let's continue with the app. We are first initializing recycler view object. So this code is directly from the documentation. We are creating recycler view object So there are two options. One is linear layout manager, other is grid layout. So linear layout is for single list, like top to bottom, you are scrolling through contact list or scrolling through any list, it has one item in one row. But if you choose grid layout, you can have two items in each row, just like we had in our app as a demo. And now I'm going to change it to 2 and continue. Now let's create an object of recycler view adapter. So adapter equals to movie adapter, and then recycler view dot adapter. You also have to set adapter of the view. So हमने जो recycler view element बनाया था, view dot adapter equals to adapter. So that is part of the documentation. You can just look it up. So this is just, मैंने याद नहीं किया हुआ, I haven't memorized it. It is just from the documentation. More you read, more you will know. So now in main activity, we will update recycler view, the list, with the movie mock data. So we will create a new function in adapter called update data, and in that we will pass the movie data. So when we are passing it, we can do this dot data equals to data. That's how we can create same names. So according to the book Clean Code, if you use same name of a variable for same operations, it will be consistent and code will look more clean. अगर आप data को बाद में दे दो db, data, db, multiple words create confusion for other developers to look at your code. So keep consistent naming scheme in your app. So after creating that variable, so after creating the function of updating the adapter, now we can call in our main activity adapter dot update data, and usme we will pass the mock data. Now let's run the app. So while running the app, we are getting an error. So we are getting this error because I forgot to add internet permissions for the app. So let's go to manifest file and let's add users permission android.permission.internet. So after adding that permission, you will be able to see, and now we are able to see the image in the recycler view. So it is covering the whole screen because I accidentally had the height as match parent, so or wrap content, because the image is so big. If you want to limit the height, you can pass in 100 dp or 200 dp. There is lot to UI. We will learn about UI, how you can customize it later. But for now, let's reduce the height to 400 dp. And now let's run the app, and you can see that image has become shorter. So this is simple implementation of a recycler view with 2 items. So this was our first project. It is not complete, but these are the 3 things we learned so far. Number 1, it is not about memorization. No memorization needed, but some concepts are definitely needed. That's why we are going through this bootcamp and this course. So no memorization for many concepts. Just read the documentation. You can in many cases copy from Android resources, Medium resources, if they are saying that they are copyright free. Many things are copied pasted. You don't need to worry about so many things thrown at you. Number 2 is test as you develop. We are going through test driven development. So even if you write 1 line of code, 1 line, then test, 2 lines, test, because later on you will not be able to figure out where the crash is coming from, where the bug is coming from. So it should be test driven development. And according to the book Clean Code, if you want to write clean code, everything should be tested by developer. If the code is not tested, it doesn't mean that it is clean. It has to be tested to call it clean code. Number 3, impact. So to measure impact and say that this is one of the coolest projects I've made, you need to show impact. So impact is shown by how useful your app is. For example, if your app has 10 or 100 downloads, even 10 downloads, which we will help you, that means it is helping few people, and that has an impact. And that's why we have this live batch. You know, in that live batch, we are creating 6 projects that you can say I'm proud of. WhatsApp clone, wallpaper app, and even an app connected with ChatGPT. And even in fact, the coolest part is a video call app, WhatsApp clone, plus most importantly, a REST API, how industry level REST API is made from scratch. You will understand cloud-based learning, how I'm going to create a REST API on cloud, Microsoft Azure, as well as we're going to use a computer at home, koi bhi computer you may have at home, and we will use it to make a REST API. So these are the coolest things we're going to make. And 3 homework for you all now. So number 1 homework is going to be, first, organize your app. So we have model, view, and ViewModel. So create folders in our app and organize into these 3 folders: model, view, ViewModel. Number 2 homework, we used activity. So we used activity in our class. So convert activity to fragment, which is better practice to keep code organized. So in activity, there will be another fragment which will show this list. And number 3 is just look into which library we will use to download data for images. This project will be continued on our live batch for sure. So you have to see whether we will use retrofit, OKHTTP, or combine. So see what library is important to do network call, how we will do it. So that is another concept. So that's why it'll be really long to cover. You might feel it is overwhelming. So that's why this will be homework for now and covered in a live batch. And remember, in our Android course, we are covering everything from scratch. So basically, Pele, Java, Kotlin, and then why Android development, how much Android you need to learn. Everything will be covered slowly from the beginning, and then every concept will be understood and then implemented. तो हर चीज हम scratch से पकड़ के implement करके खत्म करके then we are saying that we are making 6 projects, and practice is most important. So that's why we have pair programming. So practice with your pair programmer in the Discord group and get started. So that's it for today, and we will see you in our live batch, and thank you so much for watching.